As many of you know, the Freedom from Religion Foundation has a very special award. It's The Emperor Has No Clothes. Can you see it? Use your telephoto. The Emperor Has No Clothes Award is designed by the same company that makes the Oscars. And this is a gold-plated award of the Emperor with a little scepter and a little mirror that he can adore his beautiful face in. And of course, you know the story. The public figures are like the child in that Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale who tells it like it is. The emperor has no clothes. Especially about religions. This award goes to public figures who are not afraid to just tell it like it is. Past awardees include the Nobel laureate in physics Steven Weinberg, Oliver Sacks, Peter Singer, Steven Pinker, Ron Reagan, the son of Ronald and Nancy, Natalie Angier, Alan Dershowitz, Penn and Teller. You might have seen there was a show about Penn and Teller renovating his apartment, and he kept the award there, and it was right in the middle of that. You could still see his No God Award. Steve Benson and Ann Gaylor, both of whom are here, and you'll see Steve tonight, the former Mormon. Richard Dawkins, Katha Pollitt, and Julia Sweeney, among many, many others. This year's choice was a shoo-in. Who better exemplifies the spirit? Can I say spirit? Who better exemplifies the spirit of this award than our next speaker, who's been traveling our God-ridden, religion-drenched nation, as Richard Dawkins calls him, as a Bible belter. And Christopher asked his publisher, instead of sending me on the regular tour, like the regular book tour, I want to go down into the buckle of the Bible Belt. He wanted to go down to the South to do debates everywhere he can with religionists. He's all over the airwaves. Even yesterday, here in Madison, he came in a day early. He did a live CNN interview for CNN, among many other media engagements he's been doing in town. You may have read his September column for Vanity Fair about all of his experiences. It's called God Bless Me, I'm an Atheist. God Bless Me, it's a bestseller, he said. Christopher Hitchens is witty, he's entertaining, he's plain-spoken, despite all those well-turned phrases. He says what no one else will. For example, his candid and truthful statement about the death of Jerry Falwell. Did you see that? We're not supposed to speak ill of the dead, but we can make exceptions. What did you call him? A little toad who should be selling pencils on the street corner, something like that, you know, which I thought was too good of a job for Falwell. But telling it in an important and engaging best-selling book that continues to be a bestseller, surprise, surprise, God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything. And God may not be great, but the book God is Not Great is great. He says in here, violent, irrational, intolerant, allied to racism and tribalism and bigotry, invested in ignorance and hostile to free inquiry, contemptuous of women and coercive toward children, organized religion ought to have a great deal on its conscience. Above all, he says, we are in need of a new enlightenment, which will base itself on the proposition that the proper study of mankind is man and woman. To clear the mind for this project, it's become necessary to know the enemy and to prepare to fight it. So, are you here? Christopher, where are you? Yes, he is. The 2007 Emperor Has No Clothes Award, Christopher Hitchens, Freedom from Religion Foundation. We'll just set it right here.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's
great.
you.
Thanks. Well, thank you. For ladies and gentlemen, comrades, friends, brothers, sisters, for coming. Thank you for a very generous introduction. Thank you for the calendar. My birthday is the 13th of April, which is the same birthday as the author of the Virginia Statute on Religious Freedom, Mr. Jefferson. I took my oath at his memorial in Washington, swearing to particularly, I wrote it in, uphold the separation of church from state, as bodied forth in his letter as president to the Baptists of Danbury, Connecticut, who were frightened of persecution. Frightened of persecution from whom, by the way? The Congregationalists of Danbury, Connecticut. Anyway, as the world knows, though it doesn't know that, the reply that he gave said that there shall ever be a wall of separation between church and state in this great republic, and I proudly affirmed as much, and I have been going around the South promulgating my new slogan, in which I ask you to join me. Mr. Jefferson, build up that wall. That's an accidental preface given me by our generous host. I didn't realize I was going to be able to say that, and I did feel I might give you a brief report on the campaign trail, on the swing through the areas of piety. I don't ever claim to feel or detect the finger of the divine, certainly not in my own arrangements, but I guess it was lucky that in the first week, as I was in North Carolina, the carcass of Jerry Falwell was found unraptured, slumped on the floor of the mediocre degree mill of an office in Virginia. And I was able to say, though they tried to bleep it on, I think it was Hannity and Colmes, and I was terrified for a minute that Dan was going to tell this for me, but that had he been given an enema, he could have been buried in a matchbox. So good are things these days with YouTube and other things my children can do and I cannot, that apparently I was lip-read saying that, even though they bleeped it out. So it got said on the air anyway. So let's not say that all the victories are to the wicked side. But I didn't expect that by the end of the summer there would have been a bunch of letters published by the late woman arrogantly calling herself Mother Teresa, Agnes Bojashu, elderly virgin of Macedonia, inflicting her hideous doctrines on the wretched of Bengal, saying that she couldn't believe a word of it either. I mean, I didn't think she was one of us too, and look, let's be charitable. Let's welcome the old bag before it's too late. If she can't bring herself to believe it, and if all her confessors can do is to say that the suffering that results gives her a share in crucifixion, then let's for heaven's sake extend the hand of compassion to her ourselves. Now, here's what I've learned on this process of debate and engagement with the faithful, where I don't want to sound conceited, but I have now taken on all the comers they suggest. I don't nominate their side, I don't nominate their team. And no one yet has said that I've lost one. It's the furthest I ought to go in fairness. But here's what I've learned. I've learned not to say some things that used to irritate me. I don't say, for example, why do they never come up with any new arguments? As I heard myself saying after a debate with a theologian the other night in Georgetown. Well, they can't come up with any new arguments, can they? They're stuck, if you like, with the old arguments. They can say, if you like, and by torturing themselves into pretzel shape, all right, this applies only to those who do accept the theory of evolution by natural selection, or who do understand a little bit of physics. They say, come to think of it, it does look as if we got here as primates after 99.8% of all the other species ever created on Earth became extinct. That only shows how clever God was to begin with. It's not much of an argument, is it? Actually, it doesn't really count as an argument at all. It isn't reasoning of any kind. It's a sort of reverse engineering. But it is, as is often said of hypocrisy, the compliment that vice pays to virtue. It's a tribute, in a sense, to the work that, had it been done earlier, would have meant there was no need for superstition in the first place. The same with the Big Bang. After all, it's an awesome cosmic event involving a great deal of heat and a great deal of light. In fact, Dinesh D'Souza, one of my best antagonists, a really believing, serious Catholic, does say in his new book, What's So Great About Christianity, a book that needs a question mark in its title but doesn't have one, that, come to think of it, now we look at it again, Genesis, instead of negating the Big Bang, predicts it, because we used to laugh and say, how could God create light and only then the sun, the moon, and the stars? Well, the Big Bang answers that. So you see, it was always there all along, only we were too dumb to see it. Now, I agree with Dinesh that that's a nice try. But that's as generous as I'm prepared to be. No, what we have to do is grasp something right off and stop being in the least bit apologetic about it ourselves. It is often quasi-conceded, if I can put it like that, phrase it like that, that though religion may be metaphysically false, and not even really metaphorically true, when you think of those tortures about the Big Bang that I've just adumbrated,